So now we are live in YouTube. I think we can start. I will start recording now, Miriana.
Yes, that's fine.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the new seminar from Instituto de Astrofísica de Andalucía. We can start. Sorry, start recording now. Miriana, I need to mute here.
Yeah.
Today we will have the seminar, the talk by Dr. Mirjana Bobic. She will talk about astronomy for attaining sustainable development goals in Africa. Dr. Mirjana Bobic is an assistant professor of the Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute, an associate researcher at the Instituto de Astrofísica de Andalucía here in Granada, in Spain, and an honorary lecturer at Maravara University of Science and Technology in Uganda. She obtained her PhD in astrophysics in 2010 from the Instituto de Astrofísica de Canarias in Spain. Her main research interests are galaxy formation and evolution, in particular nuclear activities in galaxies, star formation, morphological classification of galaxies, and galaxy clusters. In addition, for more than 10 years, she has worked on development in astronomy science education in different parts of Africa, in particular Ethiopia, Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Zambia, through different projects and initiatives related with research collaborations, institutional development, student supervisions, trainings, lecturing, regulation, development, women in science, and outreach. In 2018, she received the inaugural Nature Research Award for inspiring science dedicated to young women for their scientific achievement and contribution to society. In May 2018, she was invited by the Science Fund of the Republic of Serbia to be one of the 16 selected science ambassadors. Congratulations. And in June 2018, she received a recognition from the ESSTI for her contribution and work. And in March 2020, recognition from the Ethiopian Space Science Society for her involvement in education and outreach. So thank you, Mirjana, for this talk, for accepting this talk. Welcome again here to Granada in this format. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, René. And good morning, everybody. Good afternoon as well. I think there are also people connecting from different time zones. It's really my pleasure to be here with all of you in this virtual mode at IAA. The last time that I gave the seminar at IAA was just before I moved to Ethiopia. So that's now more than 5 years ago. So I'm really excited to be here with all of you. So the talk today is not so much related with research work, but very much important for the science development worldwide as well. So starting from now, when I speak about the development in Africa, I will actually I will be referring to these 17 Sustainable Development Goals that we have now. That is the UN agenda signed by the majority of the countries that we have in the world. And basically, in order to really reach the Sustainable Development Goals, I believe that it's very, very important that we really think about the long-term measures for the benefit of our society and how we can actually change the scope of what is the international cooperation, what is the international what are the international collaborations as well. And when we come to the point of Africa, that is the part of today's talk, I think the recent European Union African strategy for science and innovation that came out last year is really a positive sign that in Europe we can see now a bit this change of how Europe and the African continent can actually cooperate, and that this international collaboration shall really include much more science, education, technology development, and think in this long-term aspect. So in order to combat poverty in the long term, those fields that I put here are really fundamental, starting with education, that we all know that it's a key tool in our society for benefiting our societies and combating poverty. Without education, we cannot speak about science. Without science, we cannot speak about technological development. And then without all of these three, we cannot really speak about innovation. And we know how much all of them are really important for both social, economical, environmental developments of the countries. But the fundamental, beside education, the fundamental point is to empower 50% of our population and to really bring the same opportunities for everybody, for all minorities, and then independently on the gender. So empowering women and girls is extremely important, and basically we will not be able to reach sustainable development goals if this very last point that I mentioned is not really there present all the time. So when we come now to astronomy and space science, these fields really shown to be important tools for development, and I will just remind you some of the aspects that are really strong sides of astronomy in comparison with other sciences. So first is that astronomy is one of the most multidisciplinary sciences. I'm sure that all of you saw this picture previously in one context or another from the IU. And it's just to remind you that basically astronomy is related with all fundamental sciences, but also different fields related with technology development, like computer sciences, engineering, material sciences, but then also with the humanities and social sciences, like anthropology, ethnology, religions, and so on. So it means that through astronomy, we can actually contribute to the development of all of those fields. Another aspect that, again, we know very well is the power of the strength of astronomy to really inspire young people and general community for education and for science by having these really inspiring questions that we all share independently of what our profile is, such as where do we all come from, what is the origin of life, how the universe is, what are stars, galaxies, and so on, what will be the fate of the Earth or the solar system. And so when we come to really the point of how we can inspire in an efficient way different communities, including those communities that are facing many difficulties, challenges, like, for example, street children, astronomy really shown to be very, very important tool. And then we know that every time that we have the development of the next generation telescopes, astronomy is basically one of the leading sciences that is contributing to the technological developments and innovation through the development of ground-based and space-based missions. And more we are also hearing about using astronomy for the peace and using astronomy for developments. Why? Because we have all these big collaborations that are many of them last for decades, like the SK, that is a great example. And then it really brings it makes the connections between the countries to be much stronger. And with this slide, I would like to remind you just the connection, how the astronomy contributed to the digital revolution in which we are currently. And we saw the importance of the digital revolution during the COVID. So just to remind you, the idea behind Wi-Fi, that now we can't imagine our life without Wi-Fi, the idea actually came from astronomy and the observations of the black holes. And then computing, communication, GPS imaging, that all of these are fundamental parts of the digital revolution. Again, astronomy contributed a lot through the contribution to the development of the grid computing, the satellite communications, but also the atomic clocks, by observing faraway distant sources, and the CCD cameras that we know that nowadays basically every single mobile phone has a small CCD camera, and taking images, taking videos and sending that, it's an important part of the digital revolution and communication and sending the information. However, we know that these instruments are really fundamental in astronomy, and all the development of the CCDs is related with our field. And then through the large data sets that we have in astronomy, millions and millions of stars and galaxies, big catalogs, and then development of all different tools for managing big data, through astronomy, we really contributed to the development of big data and big data science that nowadays is basically implemented in every aspect of our life. And with the future missions like SKA, we can really expect the big data and the new technologies to be even more strengthened through astronomy. And this is just to remind you that with SKA, we are expecting about 100,000 times faster data flow than what we currently have in the world. So this will bring a huge revolution in all what the data are, how to manage the data, how to store the data, process the data, and so on. So when we come to the African continent, another reminder is that Africa really has a huge potential for astronomy development. On one side, taking into account the large number of young population that the continent has, many inspired people, young people with a lot of capacity, a lot of energy, and with so much motivation to really change the future of the African continent through the education, science, and the technology. And then when we come to the observational astronomy, you can see here the world map of the light pollution, and we can see that in African continent, many of the countries still preserve the night skies, and it's still one of the natural resources. So if we just remind ourselves how much Spain with Canary Islands, or US with Hawaii, or South Africa, or Chile, that is one of really great examples, managed by using the natural resource, the dark sky as a natural resource, to really benefit and to improve their social and economical development through astronomy, then why not more countries besides South Africa can do that in the future? So we could say that it's really time for Africa, and I would really just like to remind all of you, because still we are receiving very, very often a question why there is astronomy in Africa or space science in Africa, taking into account many difficulties that are there, or what one astrophysicist is doing in Ethiopia. So it's just to really have in mind that investing in astronomy, investing in science, including astronomy, such as any other field of science, is really not a question of can we do it or not? It's not a question of luxury. It's a fundamental need, because we know that without science, we cannot speak about long-term social economical development, and we cannot speak about fighting against the poverty and eliminating poverty. So if we really want to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 1 altogether on the world level, that we don't want to have really poverty, extreme poverty that we are facing nowadays, and such a big differences between the countries, we can really not think that doing science, independently if it's astronomy or any other, it's a question of luxury. So it's really a fundamental need. And when we come to now the continental initiatives, more and more countries are really having the vision that astronomy, space science are important. Here are a few examples coming from the African Union as a joint effort. And in 2015, in the post-development agenda, in order to achieve sustainable development goals, African Union recognized the importance of science, technology, innovation, but then in particular, the importance importance of space and geospatial technologies for achieving SDGs. And thanks to that, there was, now we have the African Space Agency that is in the process of development. It will be based in Egypt, and the first African space strategy. And recently, the African Union started several surveys regarding astronomy and then space science in Africa in order to get a better picture about the current status. And with this picture that I'm sure many of you already saw it, that we published in 2018 in the paper where we summarized the status of astronomy, space science in Africa, you can see that many countries really are already involved in the infrastructure development. So this is just related with infrastructure development. If you put here also the programs that are like MSc, PhD programs now in astronomy, space science, institutional development, then actually this map is filled even more. However, we still have about half of the African continent that doesn't really have still established programs on a more professional level in astronomy and astrophysics. Also, one of the signs that astronomy is really becoming very important on the continent is the re-establishment of the African Astronomical Society in 2019, that became very, very vibrant society, a society that now we already have more than 400 members across the continent, many young people that are there. And here you can see some of the committees, including Science Committee and then AFNA, that I will mention a bit later in more details. So now this was up to here a bit just the introduction, and now actually I will go to the principal part of the talk, that is how actually astronomy can contribute to sustainable development goals in Africa. And I will be going to the particular examples. So basically all those SDGs, 9 SDGs that I put here with the solid in the solid line, we can see the direct contribution on both shorter but also longer time scales, contribution of astronomy to the SDGs. And then in more indirect way and on the longer term, we can actually say that astronomy really can contribute in a significant way to basically all SDGs. So I will more focus on those that are in the solid line through the examples, but then in the questions part, we can discuss other aspects as well. So the examples that I will be giving now through the talk are coming from Ethiopia, from the work that we've been doing at the ESSTI in the last, and then in collaboration with the Ethiopian Space Science Society in the last 5-6 years. So then also from East Africa, the collaborations that we have established with Rwanda, Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya in particular, and then from Africa in general. So when we come to the Ethiopian context, I would just like to mention that the Ethiopian Space Science and Technology Institute was established in 2016. And it was established as a very, very first research center of such kind, and not actually only in Ethiopia, but in all East African region. And you can see here the motto of the Institute: we explore the universe for the benefit of our people. And this is really the vision that the Institute has, that through the space science, including astronomy and then space science technologies, Ethiopia can actually improve some of the principal difficulties that the country is still facing, such as improving and making stronger the qualified sector in the country through the education, through the research, improving the development of the science in general, improving the access to the water, agriculture productivity, or the access to the natural resources, renewable energies by using space-based or satellite data. So these are really some of the aspects. There are 2 small telescopes that I will mention a bit later as well. Then when we come to the East Africa and the example, it's a bit through the collaborations that we established with the University of Rwanda, Bara University of Science and Technology, 2 universities in Tanzania, two universities in Kenya and then the University of Zambia as well. And I will also mention different examples coming from Africa in general. Those that, especially when we come to the some of those are the examples in which I have the chance to directly participate to different initiatives, and then I will also mention others, the bigger scale projects that are also there on the continent. So the very first sustainable development goal that we can really say that astronomy is directly attached to is how through astronomy we can improve the quality education. And here I will really give different examples from Ethiopia. So the first is how actually through astronomy we can contribute to improve the higher education in Ethiopia, but also East Africa through the projects that we are running. So basically at the ESSTI since 2014-15, there is the postgraduate program in astronomy, then in other now 4 fields as well, including remote sensing, space physics, space geodesy, and since recently space engineering also. So you can see here just under the astronomy and astrophysics department, the number of students who already graduated, so 6 PhD, 12 MSc students, and then the number of PhD and MSc students that we are currently having under the program. I have to say that all of the 6 PhD students, some of them are now our staff members, the very first staff members that we trained in astronomy, that we trained in the country, and then others are working across the country at different universities. And we also managed in these last 5-6 years to really offer the strong support with lecturing, student supervision in the East African region. So with this, we really managed to improve the level of higher education in Ethiopia and East Africa. Why? Because the majority, basically all of our MSc and PhD students are already attached to some of the public universities in Ethiopia and then in those countries that I mentioned here. So basically when they finish their studies, they will go back to their universities and continue teaching at least for several years during the commitment that they have. So basically under the program that the country has, all people are coming from the university. They get the scholarships from the Ministry of Education, but then once they finish their studies, they have to go back and let's say teach at least for a certain number of years. So you can see here some of our very first MSc PhD students in astronomy. And when we come to the Extragalactic group that we established in 2016, so here you can see some of the very first MSc PhD students doing their research in extragalactic astronomy from Ethiopia, Rwanda, Uganda, and Tanzania. You can see in this, since 2016, in basically 5 years, the number of graduated students. So we have MSc students who finished their research, and then 1 PhD student, Seleki, that you can see here, and then currently 7 students who are under their studies. 3 of them are just starting. I would like to say that out of these 8 MSc students, 6 of them are now doing their PhD. Of those 6, 5 are doing their PhD abroad. We actually have Betty, who is now at IAA doing her PhD, and then Tseleke, who got his postdoc in Chile, and then other 2 MSc students are now working at the university. So most of the work that we are doing in research is actually focused on the physics of active galaxies, but also morphological properties of galaxies, and then properties of galaxies in galaxy clusters as well. So the question that very often we are getting, that not always is straightforward, the vision is how then through the fundamental research we can actually contribute to the development. No? So how by studying AGN we can contribute to benefit our society and to the development in general. So here I just mentioned some of the aspects. No? So just by by training people, so through all the MSc PhD students that are there, and then the research, and then the international collaborations that have been established during these 6 years, only under the Extragalactic Astronomy group, if I take it as an example, we can really see the contribution to all of these 7, 8 SDGs that I marked here, at least. So the one is the human capacity building that I already mentioned, because our students, as you know, do not learn only about astronomy, but they develop so many skills during their MSc PhD, including computing skills, including writing skills, and so on. And then contribution to the higher education that I mentioned previously, but also the development of science in general, and then giving more visibility, and in that way making stronger actually the institutions, the ESSTI, and then contributing to the institutional development through the research, through the science, because more people we have, better background people have, of course, that we have stronger institutions. I mean, it's not the only factor that is needed. There is much more support that is needed as well, but it's one of the fundamental ones, of course. And then the contribution to the having stronger international collaboration. So basically, all of the students that are there, and then projects that I didn't have time to go into the details, but they're all done in collaboration with different institutions. IAA actually took a very strong participation, especially the Extragalactic Astronomy department, and then AGN group. So we have currently 2 PhD students that there is a co-joint supervision, and then Betty, who now joined ESSTI as well. And then there is really a strong collaboration through several other projects as well. And then also on the longer term, we can talk about the contribution to strengthen the Entoto Observatory, and then open the possibilities for future technological developments in the country as well. And one of the example is when we come to the point of giving more visibility, starting with science development and bringing for the very first time international community to the country. One of the example is the organization of the IU Symposium that was purely focused on the research in active galaxies. That was in 2019, and this was just the third IAU Symposium to be organized in Africa in the past 100 years of the IAU. And you can see here that it was the 356th Symposium to be organized. So basically, we used this not only to attract for the very first time some of the best experts in the field, but also to do different activities for the broader community, such as the outreach activities during the symposium, the training with the students before, the training with the teachers after, the tutorials that were organized there. So it was really a very, very positive, a very beneficial event where through the astronomy and AGN research, we managed to bring all these people. Then through the astronomy, we can also contribute a lot when we come to the human capacity development, not only in terms of the research in astronomy, but in the broader aspect. So basically, in these several last years, we organized more than 10 schools, workshops, and then different trainings by bringing people from abroad. Here you can see some of those, and many of these trainings were very general in scientific writing, in programming, including Python. So it was actually open for the much broader community. So in this way, by strengthening the capacities, I mean, bringing more qualified sector in the country, we definitely contribute to the SDG 8 related with all the economical growth. This is the example of 2 schools. One is the Sub-Saharan School of Astronomy that will be hopefully organized this year, and then the East African School of Astronomy that again hopefully will be organized this year, because both of them have been postponed already twice due to COVID. And this East African School of Astronomy we're planning to do on biannual, on the regular base, so either annually or biannually. And my colleague Alemi Emamo, who is under the road, the East African Office of Astronomy for Development, is really the one who is pushing this quite a lot to really become the regular meeting. And then another aspect, if we really want to have a strong education, motivate young people, and then use education for bringing more science and more opportunities, we really have to think only not about the higher education, but even to the primary, secondary school level. And how we can reach to the children is by training the teachers. So training teachers through astronomy is extremely important and can really have the strong impact. And this is something that we saw under the network of astronomy school education that has been now running since 2009. I joined the NASA in 2012, and in these last few years, we organized 10 trainings between Ethiopia, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Zambia. Then Rosa did, my colleague from Barcelona, who is the founder of NASA, did many more across the continent. And here you can just see some. So basically, some of the pictures. So basically, what is the main point of NASA trainings is the practical part. So using the recycled materials that teachers can construct different experiments and explain different physical, astrophysical laws, especially in those schools, in those areas where there is no any access to the physics labs and the science labs. And then on the other side, beside focusing on teachers' trainings, again, I have to mention that the ESSTI Astronomy Department in particular, in collaboration with the Ethiopian Space Science Society, who is fully dedicated to the outreach and education, has been so active over the past years in Ethiopia and then even out of Ethiopia as well. And you can see here only some of the bigger events that have been organized, including the Astrobus, where my colleagues were going literally with the bus for 2 years, 2 years now, to the northern part of the country, southern part of the country, and to the more remote rural areas where rarely children can have a chance to really get more interaction in terms of science. No. Okay, and then so these are just some of the examples coming from Ethiopia that you can get a bit of the idea about all the activities that we are involved with and how really through astronomy we can benefit, we can contribute to the SDG 4 related with the quality education. But when we come to the African continent as a whole, actually there are so many different initiatives, so many countries now. About 20 countries we have that started MSc PhD program in astronomy. And then also here you can see the number of amateur astronomical societies, which is really impressive. We have more than 70 societies that are there across the continent, which is really, and this 10 years ago, this map was very, very different. So there was a huge progress in 10 years regarding astronomy on the continent. So I will skip this slide. It was just reminding us a bit about the gender gap in science that we have. And when we come to the use of astronomy for also inspiring young girls, and then how through astronomy we can benefit to SDG 4, but in particular to the SDG 5, that is to reach the gender equality. One of the examples is the STEM for Girls in Ethiopia initiative that we started in 2019 with my colleagues from the Society of Ethiopian Women in Science and Technology. And the aim that we have is to really focus on the secondary school girls by going to the schools and interacting normally with a smaller group of girls. So most of the pictures that you can see, actually the groups are not very, very big, so that we can establish more close contact with the girls. And we also started interacting with the teachers. We organized the very first workshop for the teachers in order to discuss really the importance of promoting STEM among the secondary school girls. And also there was a survey that we conducted in 2019 in order to understand why more girls do not choose STEM, because currently in Ethiopia, we only have 13% of women, of all scientists, that are women. And when we come to the fundamental sciences, including physics, maths, actually this number is much, much lower. So the question is why, and we really managed to understand that some of the principal reasons are on one side the lack of the support, but then on the other side also the lack of information and role models as well, excluding the poverty, and that in general we have less girls that come to the point, you know, that they can really start with, in general, come to the university, MSc, PhD. Then another initiative that we also started is the African Network of Women in Astronomy. So this was officially launched in January last year. So now we are for 1 year running. And I have to mention that during this last year, AFNA became really very, very active. You can see here the AFNA board representing different parts of different regions in Africa. And basically the vision that we have is taking into account the strong development in Africa over the last 10 years and so many projects that are coming that I will just mention some of them after this when we come to the infrastructure development. We really want women to be active participants of all of these developments. And you can see some of the numbers here that basically out of 80% that we have also 20% of men who are members that we really, really appreciate, because bringing more girls and women in science and changing the gender gap is a question of the society. So basically, about 80% of our members are early career researchers. So either MSc students, PhD students, or just recent PhD graduates, or MSc graduates. So this is really a sign that bringing AFNA as a network in this time is very important, so that we can really support all these young women and men who are also there, as I said, 20%, and that we don't lose them, that we really try to keep the track, and that we don't lose them in their professional path in terms of the science development. So I will not have time to go much through the different activities that we went through in AFNA in the last year, but we can, during the question sessions, we can also mention that if you're interested. So beside all that I mentioned regarding the SDG 4, that is the quality education, and then through that also how we contribute, for example, to the gender equality or to the economical growth. Another point really where we can see the very, very strong importance of astronomy is the contribution to the innovation and infrastructure. So the SDG 9. So this is directly on the shorter, but also, on the longer term, but also shorter term. So just to remind you, I will very briefly go through some of the examples that you can see all the infrastructure development that is there regarding observational astronomy. So, and then also site testing, that is something that is really very important as well. So here you can see the two small domes that we have in Ethiopia with 1 meter telescopes, twin telescopes, and then Ethiopia really has great conditions, so many mountains above 3,000 meters, and then it's the most mountain country in whole Africa, with a lot of large periods during the year that are dry. So and then natural resource that is still dark sky. So there is the site testing that started at the north of the country that in the last year has stopped, but the country really has the let's say the vision that more efforts should be put there for studying the possible astronomical sites for the development of infrastructure in the future. So both in optical and then in radio as well. And if we come now to different fields, so radio astronomy, as you know, becomes very, very important for the African continent. So I will just remind you about all that is going on there, such as starting with the SK, of course, with 9 African countries that are there. All of them signed a memorandum of understanding to collaborate together on the development of radio astronomy. So this is one of really great examples how through astronomy we can promote peace, because this is really the collaboration on the longer term. Then Ghana was the first country out of 9 to convert the telecommunication dishes into the radio dish. The SK phase 1 that is now starting, and then we have several countries like Nigeria, Mauritius, there are smaller dishes, and then the radio astronomy as well. Namibia is now starting with the building of the very first millimeter wave radio telescope, that it will be the first one in Africa. And then, of course, you know, the long history in radio astronomy in South Africa, including the merging of the two institutions, two organizations into Sarao recently. Hyrax is also there as the project under the UK's 10 for the study of the hydrogen, and then of course NIRCA that now we have running with all 64 dishes since 2018, and now we can get some of the best images in radio actually coming from Africa, like this one that you all know very well by now. When we come to the optical, also a lot is there going on. So Morocco is one of the countries that, besides South Africa, really made very significant developments in the last few years, especially focusing, although we are talking about smaller telescopes, but focusing especially on the stellar activity, extrasolar planets, and then space weather as well. I mentioned 2 observatories, 2 domes in Ethiopia. Then several countries are going through the site testing with plans to put soon some of them smaller, other bigger, like Egypt, 6-meter telescope. So the site testing is going on, like in Algeria, in Egypt, in Kenya as well. Burkina Faso is really struggling to put the small observatory. The telescope is already there, and then you are very much aware of all the developments in South Africa regarding optical astronomy, including SALT that is there. And then we also have in gamma rays, the 5 Cherenkov telescopes that are based in Namibia, and that are also some of the best infrastructure that we have currently in the world. So basically, all of this is really very, very important contribution through astronomy to the infrastructure development, and then, you know, so many things that this infrastructure development brought, you know, and South Africa is really an excellent example for that. How through and that is why the government also recognizes astronomy in South Africa as one of the fundamental fields to be supported, because they realized what is the impact in terms of the social economical development for the country, you know. And basically South Africa contributed really a lot for training so many people that then from Africa that then went back later on to their countries after their MSc, PhD. And basically that is one of the fundamental reasons why nowadays we have astronomy in Kenya, in Uganda, in Ghana, in Rwanda, even in Ethiopia, because many of the colleagues that we have actually went through the NASP, AIMS, and so on programs in South Africa for their training in astronomy. So basically through that we can see now how in these 10 years astronomy started developing very, very fast across the continent, you know. And this is just now to summarize a bit how through the previous that I mentioned, so including astronomy for education, then astronomy research, and then development of astronomical infrastructure, we actually directly contribute to these 2 SDGs. One is the climate action, another is the affordable and clean energy. So the climate action, because due to if we really have all this infrastructure development, and then it requires the protection of the large areas. Sorry? Okay, and then it requires the protection of large areas and the conservation of the sites. Then that definitely contributes to and then protection of the dark sites. It contributes directly to the SDG 13. Astronomers for Planet Earth is another really great initiative that we could observe many activities that they are running recently. And then when we come to the SDG 7, so like in solar physics, that directly contributes to this SDG. We also, through the infrastructure development, in particular when we come to the SKA, we know that we directly can contribute on the longer term to this project, so to this SDG. So we know how many companies are there, research centers, universities that are currently working on different patents, small projects regarding renewable energy, supporting SKA, and all of this will have the impact later on in many different aspects of our society. Then, beside all of those that I mentioned, few more points before I finish is the contribution of astronomy to really strengthen international collaboration. So this I already mentioned a little bit, so I will not repeat myself. We have SK that is really a great example, but here you can see just an example from Ethiopia, no, in particular from astronomy department. So you can see how in last 5 years we managed to establish the collaboration with all of those institutions from different continents, and this is definitely the contribution for the country, because a lot of human capacity development came through this, beside the research, beside the science development as well. And just one thing that I would like to mention is different meetings that have been there. So I will not have time to go into the details, but I would like to mention the meeting that we organized here. You can see the very first meeting on African-European collaborations that was in 2018 when we started organizing. This was in collaboration with my colleagues from the OID, with Vanessa and Kevin, that we started, as I said, in 2018. So the idea was to really bring stronger the collaborations between Africa and Europe by proposing the special session under the annual meeting of the European Astronomical Society. So this, due to the really important impact that the meeting had, we started organizing it on the biannual base. So the second one was in 2020, and this year we will be having the third one, the third special session. I will be sending soon the note about that and for asking for the abstract submission. So this will happen in Valencia in this year. And then few more points is that I mentioned already a little bit is the contribution of astronomy for promoting peace and then bringing stronger institutions. No, in this aspect, the same as other sciences. So astronomy can also contribute to make stronger institutions, and we know that having stronger institutions in the countries are fundamental for also improving the chance for having more political stability. It's not enough, it's not the only factor, but it's very important factor. And then in that aspect, working on what is the policy framework is very important as well, because why it's important? Because you want the political engagement on the longer term. So in that aspect, in Ethiopia, a few examples from Ethiopia again. In Ethiopia, in the last few years, a lot of work has been done to come up with the very first Ethiopian space policy and strategy, both green and white paper. And then currently we are working on the roadmap, how to develop astronomy and space science in the next 30 years. And this is another initiative that I would like to mention that has been started by 5 of our colleagues in nuclear physics, and it became really continental initiative. You are all welcome to join. So basically the idea under the African strategy for fundamental and applied physics is really to, in the next 2-3 years, to come up with the strategy, including all fields of physics. So astrophysics and cosmology is there. There are 5 of us who are running the working group. And the idea is really to include the whole community so that we can really bring the strategy, to have the strategy in our hands. What is the current status in physics in general on the continent? What are the current needs, and where do we want to go in the future? So where African continent wants to go in the future regarding physics development, and how through the physics, including, as I said, astrophysics, cosmology that we have there, how we can actually contribute to the development, so that with this strategy we can then help decision makers, help governments, help ministries, African Union, to really use it as something to plan in future their strategies and infrastructure development, science development, and so on. and few other initiatives that I will not have time to go through, unfortunately, because I can see that it's already 45 minutes. So I will just summarize here that basically with all previous that I mentioned, in the long term, we can really contribute to these two SDGs that I believe are the fundamental ones, but in the same time, the most challenging ones, no, because they are big goals. No, one is to reduce inequalities, and then another is to eliminate poverty. No, so basically, if we really, through astronomy and science, manage to bring to make Africa stronger, more independent, so that we have people in the countries, that African continent is not depending only on exploitation of the natural resources, where basically nowadays we have agriculture and mining that is there, and then a lot of exploitation of the human resources. So that picture has to change, and the young people in Africa are those who are changing that, and we can just push a bit and help, that through the science, as much as each of us can bring help with all this motivation that is there. And as I said, by making Africa stronger through the education, science, and technology that I put here, definitely we are reducing inequalities, the huge inequalities that we are having in the world, and then in the same time, ending the reducing the poverty and contributing to the SDG 1 to end the poverty. So I will stop here. There are a few initiatives. You can get in touch with me. I mean, that you are very welcome to join. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Miriana. Very nice talk. I enjoy a lot. And now we open the talk for questions. Please, for the participants, raise your hand, and then I will give you the microphone for asking Miriana. Questions, Miriana. Talk. Jose Gaite Cuesta asks you, is observational astronomy not too expensive for Africa?
Yes, well, that's a question that we are always getting in all aspects. No, is launching, web space. The James Webb telescope is also not too expensive. No, in general. No, so well, I do believe that if we don't change the aspect, so what really means expensive? Is it on the short term, on the long term? No, and to what we really want to give the priorities. No, so I would say, my straight answer is I don't believe that observational astronomy is too expensive for Africa. Something that definitely I believe can be done in a better way is joining the efforts, minimizing the costs, and improving the collaborations so that the costs can be minimized, but the contribution of the observational astronomy to development of the science in different countries can be maximized. So basically, strengthening more the infrastructure development in Africa by bringing more countries together. So maybe not all countries need to have the optical observatory, but putting the efforts together in something that I personally believe that is very much important. But if we come to the point of investing in science, if we really believe in this vision that through science we can benefit the countries and the development, and that without science we cannot speak basically about social economical development, then can we really ask the question if the investing in the science is expensive? So my answer is no. But that's a simple answer, no? Then we have to, if we come to the more details, then of course there is a lot to extend the discussion, no? Why yes, why not, how yes, not, and so on.
Okay, thank you. If you allow me just to comment this, with one of your slides, you talk about luxury. Astronomy is luxury, and it's not. They ask me a lot why you want to know what is the rock in that asteroid made of? And I say, meanwhile, I make the research, I move a lot of economy, a lot of process, a lot of work, education. So it's not a question of expensive or not. It's a lot of things. It's not the final objective, it's meanwhile. Henrik, please, go on.
Me, I guess.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry.
Henrik,
First of all,
yes.
Congratulations for your impressive work. It's very stimulating to hear, and it's very encouraging that you can use science and astronomy in this kind of way. And so it actually reminds me of the physicist Niels Bohr, who believed in international collaboration as an instrument for peace, and also seeing it as an instrument for fighting poverty and all the other sustainability goals. It's simply impressive. So congratulations. I'd like to, there's one question I have regarding one of the things you said, which was about interest in science, and especially the question about girls' interest in science and the low participation of girls. I wonder if you're familiar with the studies, the international survey, which is called ROSE, the studies of trying to find out why people, for instance, are interested in science. I mean, there's one thing about a lot of the technological questions, but there's another thing about more aesthetic questions, about wonder questions, some of the questions that you said that we all share, and we sure do, about where we come from, what are the stars and all that. So I was just wondering if you're familiar with some of that work, and if not, then that might be a good way also to, a good thing to look into, to see some of the things that get even more people onto science, at least to see some of the wonderful things that science can do. And that was all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm not aware of the project that you mentioned of the work. So yeah, it would be good to, if we can get in touch later on after the talk, that would be great.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That'd be fine. Thank you.
If you have a web page, please put in the chat, Henrik.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Enrique Pérez Montero, go on.
Okay, thank you. Hola, Mariana. Thank you very much for this work. This is really amazing and impressive what you are doing there in Africa. I have a couple of questions. In fact, the first of all, I know this is tough, but I'm interested in how these things can be applied in astronomical education to engage disabled people in astronomy. Is there any specific action or plan to do so there?
Yes, hi Enrique, really nice to see you here. Yes, well, actually, I didn't. I didn't mention that point. At least in Ethiopia, there is a lot of work that has been done also with disabled people, in particular with people with visual disabilities, and we have still some of the moon models, the constellation models that you gave us, and then from Amaya also that we got the Venus and Moon that we are regularly using in the outreach activities. So when we go for outreach activities, very often we put the part that is related, the activities related with the disabled people. There is in Addis in particular, we have the Association of People with Visual Disabilities. At the university also, there is a particular faculty, and there are plans that we establish more collaborations. There were few activities that were in particular dedicated only for the people with visual disabilities. I don't know if Alemia is around, if Alemia would like to mention maybe a few more points, no? But I mean, it is true that I mean, the needs are so big, and there are so much to be done on basically all aspects of the society. And I have to say that the number of us who are there is still quite small in comparison with the needs, no? And that's actually when we come to the Ethiopian, and that's a bit across the African continent, except maybe in South Africa where you now have more people, no? But I mean, I know that across the African continent, many of the colleagues are struggling, no? Because there is so much to do, no? You have to lecture at the university, supervise students, do research in the same time, a lot of, logistics and running departments and so on. And then plus all the activities related at human capacity building in general with schools and so many, no? So, I mean, many other things, no? So when we then come to the more specific needs, no, like the ones that you mentioned, we can see that the needs are really there, and very often we just don't have strengths, no? So in that aspect, any kind of collaboration and support would be very much, from outside would be very much welcome, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's great. And I have a second question related. I would like to know your personal vision about the Starlink project. You know that on one hand, this is going to help people to get more connected in countries underdeveloped, but on the other hand, we astronomers are about to worried about how this can influence our capacity to see the sky. What do you think about that?
Yes, well, I share your double worry. No, I mean your worry in terms of astronomy, and then also I'm aware of the importance. I mean, living in Ethiopia, I know how much really the internet connection and bringing more connectivity to the people is important. I mean, it's extremely important. We could see that now in this last 2 years. So how to bring these two things together? It's really something that a lot of efforts have to be placed from different communities in the coming years. I think that when we come to the African context, there is more and more aware of that as well. I mean, I think more people are trying to get involved in one way or another in terms of preserving dark skies, at least among the astronomical community, and then speaking more about the preservation of dark skies, the importance of dark skies for astronomy development, and then all the part of the constellation with the satellites is there as well. No, so yeah, I mean, I'm not directly involved just because I don't have time. So, but yeah, I share your worries, and I know, as I said, that there are more initiatives coming from Africa as well in that at that aspect. To really see how the dark skies can be protected.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Enrique.
Thank you, Enrique. Javier Busons, please go.
Hi, Miriana.
Hello, Javier.
Hi. My question has two levels. In general, what would you say are the most cost-effective exchange programs or mechanisms to contribute between a European university, a small university in for example, mine in Southeast Spain, and Africa? And more in particular, I joined a collaboration called eCallisto. I don't know if you know about it. It's like 3 years ago, and it has a great potential in terms of both the humanitarian contributions, the outreach, and also all the way up to top-level science. So that can be used, say, to train teachers in primary, secondary education, but also to train postgrads and postgrad students all the way up to PhD. So the founder of this collaboration is getting retired now, and I would like to reactivate that activity because a number of radio stations in Africa are part of this program. And so what would you recommend as the most cost-efficient way to make the contributions via exchange programs, visits, long stays? I don't know. You have first-hand knowledge of the needs, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yes, well, I mean, the most cost-effective, focusing on the second part, effective, is really related with what are the current biggest needs, you know. And in that aspect, I think currently, I mean, for most of African countries, taking into account that many African countries are just starting with astronomy development, one of the largest needs that are there is really with the help with human capacity development. So either through the lecturing, through the supervision of MSc PhD, I mean through the lecturing at the MSc PhD level in those countries that started with a program, and very often they are lacking the professors in particular field, and then with support with the MSc PhD students, and then through the research as well, by making stronger the collaborations between the young researchers and also not so young in Africa, and then Spain in particular, and Europe. No, so this really is effective on the longer term because of what I said. The majority of the students that are there are already attached to the universities, or will be after that staying in their countries, continuing with training others, and so that is really, in my perspective, one of the biggest contributions. And then strengthening the research, because by strengthening the research and supporting by strengthening the international collaborations, it's really something that will contribute to the excellent science on the longer term in Africa, in Europe, but globally as well. So in that aspect, I think much more can be done because we do have a lot of, in Europe, there are many opportunities in terms of getting funding from the European Commission. And very often people don't think about involving because very often there are no collaborations with African colleagues. So people come up in Europe to write a proposal, and they connect with people from other continents, but not necessarily from Africa. So in that aspect, I think a lot can be done to improve that. So even maybe the collaborations are not already established, but they can be established for the future. And I think having this argument that I believe is quite strong, that when we think about science development globally, contribution of the science globally, and then the excellence of science, it's really a question of everybody. We have huge capacities, huge talents across Africa, and we cannot permit to lose them. So by as I said, I mean, just to finalize, because of time, I think cost-effective, focusing currently the most on human capacity development and contribution to the research science and strengthening the international collaborations. And then, through that also all the support that is there going on with infrastructure development will definitely come as well.
Congratulations on your commitment, and I will get in touch with you privately.
Yes, please. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you, Javier. Now there is one more question by Daudi. Go on.
Hello.
Daudi, how are you?
Okay, I'm fine. First of all, congratulations for a nice presentation. Now, since you have been in Africa for a couple of years, and maybe you have experience about the diversity of culture, tradition in Africa. Do you think maybe the diversity of this culture, tradition, art of Africa maybe is one of the barriers to why astronomy, science in general, is slowly developing?
Well, no, personally, I don't think it's a barrier. Personally, I think it's a huge advantage. I mean, the diversity that Africa has is something the most beautiful that we have on the continent. At least personally, that's what I love the most, and that I'm so much passionate about. So I think it's actually the advantage. If we just focus on the heritage that the African continent has in terms of the cultural astronomy, ethno-archaeoastronomy, I mean, it's amazing. There is so much research to be done in that aspect that it's just one of the points. And I don't believe that this strong diversity actually blocked the development in science in Africa. Actually depends in which fields of science we are talking about. I mean, there are many fields, there are different fields of science that are actually quite developed, developed in Africa, like agriculture, that has been there for a long year, and we have many experts, colleagues in agriculture that are some of the great experts in the field, or if you come to the, to different fields of the biology, research in the biology as well, or medicine as well. I mean, a lot of the tropical medicine has been done in Africa, and it's really one of the leaders, so it really depends which fields. We cannot generalize, that science is not developed in Africa. Here I focused on astronomy, and that's where I would like to remain, because other fields, I don't know how the status is, but I think we can use the diversity that is there really to benefit the development, not to stop it. I don't think it's a barrier.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Daudi.
Thank you, Daudi. Any other question to Miliana? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, I think it's time to close the seminar. Okay, Daudi, another question?
Okay, so my question was about, because she spoke about the SKA, and from her presentation, she said that for the African countries, there are about 9 countries which have been engaged, if I'm not mistaken. Hello?
Yes, Daudi. So 9 countries will be directly involved in the SK for now, where the dishes will be, thousands of dishes will be located in the coming years.
Okay, now maybe for other countries, for instance, maybe in particular, how do they get involved in the SKA? Maybe I'm not aware of how they get involved.
Well, I'm not the person to answer this question, but I mean, I think I can put you in touch with some of the colleagues, including James, that you know very well. And I don't know if there is anybody here from the SK who would like to comment on that, but I'm not the best. I know that each African country that is involved, there is a membership that is quite significant that the countries have to contribute with. And then how exactly the countries got involved, I really don't know. So,
okay, thank you. Okay.
I think there is a question from Isa.
Yeah. Isabel, go
Hello,
on.
Miliana. Hello. It's great to see you, even if it's in 2D version. Great talk. Congratulations. You already know that I'm completely overwhelmed. I mean, both professionally and personally of the kind of work you do. So that, I mean, I'm not saying anything new here, but I'd like to congratulate you again. I have one question that I don't know if you already addressed that during the talk, because I've been interrupted several times, but my question is related to the possibility, if you have already considered that, to make some kind of exchange program with the Spanish universities, for instance, since in the doctoral programs, and given the situation, there are still many courses online. So what makes things much easier for interacting with people in anywhere on Earth, but in Africa especially, if you have considered the possibility of establishing connections with Spanish universities to incorporate somewhat students at a pre-doctoral level or even doctoral level to those programs.
Yes, that's a great point, Isa. So there is awareness about that. So under SEA, last year we started the small committee that is basically astronomy for development committee, and one of the activities that we have and that we discussed already several times is to really explore more these possibilities. No, so we already started a bit more with the University of La Laguna. Isabel is there, and with the University of La Laguna, we submitted even one small proposal this year, but unfortunately it was not selected. It was between Ethiopia and so ESSTI and then the University of La Laguna. So we are aware of all of these like conventions that the universities have there, but I have to say that we are just starting with exploring really all the possibilities and to see how. So basically under this small committee for the development, that there are few of us there, including Ruben from the IAA, and then myself. There are a few people from Canary Islands, and then from a few other institutions across the peninsula. So it is there. It's there at least as a plan for now. No, so we hopefully this year we will be able to start more actively with the work, and then to see. I mean, if there is any particular convention that is there that you know about. I mean, you can please, just forward that, and we can also, talk more about it. Maybe if Inma is there, that's for the University of Granada, we can also maybe get more information.
Yeah, I was referring just to the universities because I think that should be, this should reach much more people, but also at higher levels. There is the possibility that you are already exploiting with the Severo Ochoa at the IAA, but there are also another Severo Ochoa and Maria de Maeztu centers for astronomy in Spain. So maybe that could be a good idea to try to contact them and to see whether they have online activities that would be useful for students.
Yes. Thank you, Isa.
Thank you.
Isabel.
And congratulations again.
Thank you.
So I think we can close the seminar. I will stop recording now so we can stay here for a few moments. Thank you, Miriana.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.